good. All right. Now, the diagram on the bottom of these notes just didn't show up. But I think you'll be okay, because here's the thing. You remember segment addition postulate, right?
Yep.
You remember angle addition postulate?
Yep.
Okay, good. Arc addition postulate is the same thing. You take a bigger arc, and it's going to be equal to the sum of the measures of its smaller parts. Okay? That's the main idea. So the bigger thing is equal to the sum of the smaller parts. Okay?
Oh, ours did show up.
Yeah, our.
Yours did?
Yeah.
Yeah, lucky you.
Yeah, mine just didn't get printed completely.
Okay, excellent.
Mine is printed.
Mine is fine.
Okay, yours is there?
Yes.
Okay, well, go ahead and answer those questions.
Oh, okay, so.
For 8, and then wait.
Oh, 360 minus.
I can do this, Lauren. I don't know what I'm doing.
Because this one's also here.
Yeah.
How did you get 97?
Okay, so going through these real quick, ABE is the sum of all three of those arcs, right? So it's 55 plus 100 plus 108. So that's going to be 263. Now, that is most of the circle. The leftover part is going to be 360 minus that number. So that's why AE is 97. Because we're taking 360 minus 263 and we get 97. And then finally, CBE is the 100-degree arc plus the 108-degree arc. Okay? All right. So let's move on. Okay? We've got two more quick definitions. The first one is the definition of congruent circles. Which says that two circles are congruent if they have the same radius. Okay? Circles are congruent if they have the same radius. Remember congruency, it's kind of that idea about same shape, same size. So of course circles are the same shape, because they're circles. Size of a circle has to do with the radius. So if they have the same size, then they're going to have the same radius. Okay?
Could it also be diameter?
Diameter is double the radius.
So
if the diameters are congruent,
You know, the
the
radius
same,
is
then the radii would
okay.
also have to be congruent. Yeah. Okay. Now, every definition of congruent something we've ever had so far was just that if their measures were the same, then they were congruent, right? But with arcs, it's different. Arcs has two requirements. Okay. So in order to have congruent arcs, you have to have arcs with the same measure, and you also have to have them either coming from the same circle or congruent circles. Okay, so there's two requirements for the definition of congruent arcs. Okay. All right, so if we look at this diagram here on the right, we can tell that arc AB and arc CD both have a measure of 46 degrees. So their measures are the same, and they also come from the same circle. So therefore, the circle that they come from is congruent to itself. And so yes, these two arcs are congruent to one another. Okay? So we want to decide whether arcs AB and CD are congruent for these next few examples. So I'm going to highlight those arcs, and we're going to tell whether or not they're congruent based on the definition. Okay? So let me start with these two arcs. First of all, do they come from the same circle or congruent circles?
Yes.
Yes, they do come from the same circle. So the next thing I have to do is decide if they have the same arc measure.
Can you do more?
Yes.
And yes, they do because vertical angles. Good. So these angles right in here are vertical angles, and so therefore the arcs will have the same measure. So this one's a yes.
Technically, then all circles congruent then if They all have the same measures of angles. They're not-
No, they have to have the same radius in
Oh,
order to be congruent, right? That's what we set up here.
oh,
In
so-
order to be congruent circles, you have to have the same radius. They would be similar though, right?
Yeah.
Similarity refers to same shape, so all circles would be similar to one another. Yeah. Okay, so this one's a yes, and we're gonna state why, because the measures of the central angles are congruent by vertical angles.
Can we just say vertical angles?
No,
I did.
and same circle. Okay. So the next example, here's arc AB, here's arc CD. Do they have the same measure?
Yes.
They do have the same measure. Both of those are going to have a measure of 90 degrees. Do they come from either the same circle or congruent circles?
Congruent circles.
Let's see. Well, this circle, this outer circle,
It's raised.
has a different radius
Oh,
than this inner circle,
so no.
right? So the circles are not congruent, therefore the arcs cannot be congruent either.
Okay, so there's no way.
Okay, so this one is no.
So,
The arc measures are the same,
But their length is not.
but they do not come from congruent circles. Yes,
is the arc the whole circle on that one or just
it's
this?
just this piece right here.
How do
It's
you know
just
it's
this
not,
blue piece.
like, how do you know it's not the other way?
Because remember, if it has two letters, then it's the minor arc, so it's the smaller one. Yeah. Okay.
So if there was like a third point, you would do like the whole round.
Exactly. Okay. All right. These last two. So first of all, do they have the same measure?
Yes.
They do have the same measure because their central angles are both 105. Do they come from congruent circles?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because of the congruent radii. So for this one, the answer is yes.
Yay.
Congruent circles and equal arc measures.
The next one is no.
Next one's tricky.
And the next one's
No.
no.
Is it no? It's
Because the radius aren't the same.
The radii are not the same. Now, here's the thing. I'd like to say this instead. They're not necessarily the same. Right? Because we're not going to draw anything to scale. And we don't know if they're congruent because it's not marked. So we don't have enough information here. It's safe to assume that they're not going to be congruent, but because we don't know that they're not, I kind of like to say we just don't have enough info. Okay, but this one is no because circles are not congruent. Okay. All right, so your homework tonight is worksheet plus bookwork plus sketchpad. I'm going to hand out the worksheet. It's, each piece is really short. I'm going to do the sketchpad with you. Okay?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if you already asked this, but for this, it's just like let you see like if they look the same, they are the same, like with the circles. If they look the same size, they are the same size.
No, they have to have congruent marks in order to assume that they're the same size.
And
Okay, so go ahead and take out your laptops real quick and open up to Sketchpad. Sometimes it's called GSP5 in your applications folder. Yeah, so.
George is
Questions? Sarah, so do you have homework that was like on the calendar with Adam?
You guys are gonna do the homework that was on the calendar for Thursday. Good question. Okay, so good question. So this is, the homework that you're gonna do tonight is the homework that's on the calendar for Thursday night, because you guys are, right now, you're a day behind.
Wait, so
The
it's
calendar.
is it page 561?
It's still all this, the same stuff, it's just, and it's still for 10.2, so if you look at your calendar for 10.2, it's gonna be the right stuff. It's just that you guys are a day behind right now.
So is our test a day later?
Probably not, we'll probably end up catching you up by the end, okay? All right, so everybody go ahead and make sure that you've got your Geometer Sketchpad open. And I'm just going to kind of walk you through this really quickly. I'm not going to take a lot of questions. I just want you to observe, and then you can follow along with the instructions on your paper. Okay? All right, so the instructions on your paper say first, open a Sketchpad document. Oh, good, I have done that. Okay? The next thing that you want to do is use the compass tool to construct a circle. By the way, all this stuff is at the bottom of your worksheet. It's number 3. It's a Sketchpad. Okay? All right, so use the compass tool to construct a circle. The compass tool is right here. So I'm going to click on that. And then you click somewhere to make the center of the circle, and then you click another place to form the radius. Okay? All right. So make your circle. And then the next line says to construct 3 points on the circle and then label them B, C, and D. So I already have 1 point on the circle made. I'm just going to make one more and then my last one.
Does it matter where they are?
It doesn't matter where they are.
Can you make them really close to each other?
You can. All right, so then it says label them B, C, and D. So the thing is, I want to pick the 2 that are closest together to be B and C, and then the last one to be D. So I'm going to click them in order, B, C, D, and then I'm going to go up to display label points. So the only way to label something is to select them in the correct order and then go up to display label points. If it won't let you display or label the points, then you might have some other stuff selected. So it's a good idea to start by clicking in blank space and then going back in and labeling the points. So, and my first label is going to be B. Okay, so I've got B, C, and D.
Can you go back?
I'm not going to go back because I'm just kind of demonstrating, but I'll show you the rest later, okay? So construct chords DC and DB. So that means I'm just going to use my segment tool to construct the chord from D to C and from D to B. Okay, and then I'm going to click in blank space.
Wait, how do you like delete something?
If you want to delete something, you just press the delete key. Okay, now if you need to measure the angle of CDB, then you're going to click the order in which those letters occur, so CDB, and then you go up to measure angle. Okay, so that angle right in there is 58.53. I'm not going to slow down, just watch, okay? All right, then I need to construct arc BC. So the instructions say select in order point B, point C, the circle, and then go up to construct arc on circle. If you did that in the correct order, then the arc that's highlighted will be this arc between these 2. If it highlighted the other side, you need to go back and click in the opposite order. Okay? So while the arc is selected, let's go ahead and make this thick. So you're going to go up to display.
Wait, when you constructed the arc, did you click which point?
It's on your,
Arc
it's on there.
3 points or arc circle?
Arc on circle. You shouldn't have 3 points selected. Okay?
6, the arc circle.
All right. So while the arc is selected, make it thick and then measure the arc. So while it's selected, I'm just going to go up to measure arc angle. Okay? And the measure of that arc is 117.07. Okay, so now what I want to do is drag point C, B, or D around and see what happens to those measures and make an observation. So you're going to make a conjecture about the relationship between this angle and this arc based on what you see. Okay?
Wait, if mine says